Hey guys, welcome to Haddonfield Radio.
Hello, listeners, past, present, and future. This is Haddonfield Radio, and for once, we're actually live. This time from Pasadena, California. We should probably ask: can anybody hear us right now?
Yeah, this is a new one for us. We
Are you there?
Are new.
Hello?
Anyone give us confirmation that we are actually live?
Can
This would
somebody
be great.
just? Yes.
All
All right. You can always count on Spooky Halloween Gal. She's always there in a pinch.
Forgive us as we adjust things and get everything going. This is new for us, but we
Horror,
are
bloody
excited.
horror. Hello, we love you.
We are very excited to talk to you guys. We just came back literally a little while ago from the convention, and I mean, I'm wiped, but it was a crazy weekend, huh?
Yeah, I had trouble pooping for the last 3 days. So it was a doozy for me.
So if Christian runs off, guys, I'll try to fill off.
It was a real doozy. I have bowel problems when I travel.
Yeah.
So I don't travel very often.
It's been a fun 3
I
days.
bet you that's not something you thought you'd hear on this live stream, but you did.
Anyway.
So anyway, yeah, we're here in Pasadena, of course, for the Halloween 45 Years of Terror convention. I actually had a great time overall.
Yeah,
Joe.
I mean, first of all, we should say we're from the East Coast, so we had a long plane ride over a couple days ago, and when we first got here, we went straight to taking the pictures. I think a lot of you saw on the Instagram page where we went to all the Halloween locations.
We went to all. It was funny because it's probably the same pictures most of y'all saw 55,000 times
Nothing original
this weekend. But if you're out here, you got to make the pilgrimage.
Exactly.
You got to go to the special sites, go to the horror mecca,
Mhm.
which is, of course, the Myers house. We went to the Myers house. When I say I was a little bit underwhelmed by the Myers house, I don't mean that the Myers house and the feeling of it and being there was underwhelming, but I just mean that I think something's built up in your imagination for 45 years so
Yeah.
much. And when you get there, it's just this little house on the corner.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They moved it. Everyone knows they moved it, so it's in a different location, and it just the vibe is a little off. But you know, of course, it's great that we get to visit it instead of it being torn down like they were going to do years and years ago.
Right.
And you know, it's blue, which I wish they could keep the original color, but it was cool. It was very cool to see. We walked around to the side, the windows where, you know, Michael's creeping around in the beginning
Judith's
of the movie.
bedroom.
Yeah. So
it was weird. It was pretty trippy.
But of course, on a weekend like this too, also you're seeing a lot of guys dressed up like Michael, walking around the house, and a lot of other fans. You know, it was kind of like a weird version of trick or treating. I was calling it, right?
Well, everywhere you look throughout all the different locations, you see Michael Myers is everywhere.
Yeah.
And people just in groups going to these things, almost like you're on a golf course and you're waiting at each hole.
Yeah.
You go from the Myers house to Laurie Strode's house, and there's two groups of people ahead of you. You let them have their moment. Then you go up and you hold the pumpkin and sit on the front stoop like Joe did.
Yeah. And then you see the T-shirts, and you give everyone the little nod as you walk by.
Yeah.
Like, yep. I'm here too for the same thing. Got to do it.
And then some people would message us on Instagram. I saw you guys walking. We saw you guys going from house to house.
Yeah.
But it was actually one of my favorite parts of the whole weekend. I was really blown away to just go to some of those very sacred horror locations that if you're a horror nerd and a horror fanatic like me, then it just, like I said on Instagram, it felt a lot like coming home. It was very special. It was
really,
very special.
It was really cool because literally we're walking around Haddonfield. I mean, we're in California, but it's Haddonfield. Once you get here and you look around the streets and you get to those exact filming locations, you see that the trees change. There's less palm trees, and it looks like you're right out of the movie. And this was something I brought up that, you know, I think when they're filming the movies, we talk a lot about whether it feels like we're in Haddonfield, depending if they're filming in, like, you know, Georgia or someplace way far away from Pasadena. But I think that thing that everyone looks for something to feel like Haddonfield is actually California.
Yeah.
Once you're here and you see it and you feel it, you're like, well, all right, this is the movie. And I know we call it Haddonfield, Illinois, but
so even the street, like we're in an Airbnb here in Pasadena,
right in Pasadena,
and even the street we're on, which obviously no filming took place for any of the movies, but when you even just look down the street, it looks like Haddonfield. A lot of Pasadena, the suburban areas of Pasadena, have that traditional classic 78 Haddonfield vibe.
Yeah.
And it is just trippy at times to be here.
You can't help but get sucked in. It's awesome.
The vibe is just everywhere around
It really made the weekend feel great.
I just want to say hello to Bryce. Hi, Bryce. I saw you just saying hello. It was actually one of the greatest pleasures and honors to meet you as well. That was very exciting to meet you, and we both appreciated that. So hello.
Yeah, throughout the weekend, of course, getting to meet some fans was amazing. Just tonight, we're getting dinner, and we ran to Amber, and she was a fan who listens, and seeing people on the convention floor. So it's great. We thank you guys again for listening and supporting us.
And yeah, and so we did what else did we do that first night?
Well, the funny thing was that when we were looking up the addresses.
Oh, this was good. Yeah, this is just typical Haddonfield radio right here.
I always joke that when Christian and I get together, our directionators break and we don't know which way we're going.
Yeah.
So of course we're looking up the addresses for the hedge.
We had to go to the famous hedge, of course, and that was like the second place we went.
I think that some people have purposely put out some misinformation on where it is so people like us will fall for it.
So yeah, we went to a hedge and took pictures and put them on Instagram. And the whole time I'm like crouching down to get behind. I'm like, Joe, this is more like a shrub. This is like a bush.
It was 45 years
ago. He's like, no, this is it. This is the one. This is the hedge. And a few minutes later, all people are just completely ragging on us in the comment section. This is not the right hedge.
We were not the only people at the wrong hedge. So, it happens. But we quickly went and found the real one. So we had to make the pilgrimage to every single spot that we could around Pasadena. Obviously, there's some further locations we didn't hit, but everything that's right around here, we tried to take a look at that first night, getting ready to come to the convention.
Yeah, and just in case there's a few of you wondering, just to follow up on something I mentioned earlier, I did poop since then.
Yeah,
I know some of you probably wondering, like I left you in a cliffhanger there. I was able to poop this evening.
I was worried he was going to have to leave during the
Joe actually made me nervous, telling me during the Carpenter panel, he's like, what if you're poisoned? You might have blood poisoning. So the whole Carpenter panel, I'm like, do I have blood poisoning from not pooping? But everything came out fine.
Anyway.
This is not the typical Haddonfield radio episode.
We're on vacation. We're
good
just,
times.
It was a great weekend, and I think we're still kind of riding the high of.
Yeah, Joe's been high all weekend.
So. It's great in California. It's legal. Let's move on.
So
on day one, we didn't know what to expect. Now I do a lot of conventions, and I mainly do science fiction conventions. This was my first horror con, so I didn't know how it was going to stack up to those. The sci-fi ones are usually
Joe's like a convention veteran because explain why.
I work with the Star Wars groups you see at a lot at the conventions.
He's a droid builder
with the droid builder specifically, and we work with the 501st organization, which are the guys in costume. And so we always do big setups at the cons. I'm more than just a con goer. I do the setup and everything. So looking at it from all these different perspectives, it was interesting to come to this convention that was strictly horror and strictly Halloween. And it was fun. I think that some of the pros with this con was the guest access. It was
look. Joe built these. These C-3PO and R2-D2 here. Joe actually built them, and they work and they operate. And that's our friend Chris Nicini that's inside the C-3PO outfit. So he's downplaying it because he's very humble, but he's a very established droid builder.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I'm saying in the context of conventions, you do a lot of conventions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I do it a lot, but this one of the biggest pros that I will say about this con was being able to walk up to a lot of the guests easily, talk to them. There weren't a lot of barriers, and I feel like in some of the bigger Star Wars or science fiction conventions I do, you're kind of looking from afar a lot at the star who's over at their table, and unless you're willing to wait in line or pay the money, you're not going to get to talk to them. But I think I had everybody on my wish list I got to talk to from like the first 3 Halloween movies and more. And then, obviously guys like Nick Castle, Dick Warlock, they had some really big lines.
The Nick Castle lines all weekend long, for any of you that were here, that he must have cleaned up, because the lines were unbelievable from morning till the end, from the morning till the end. The line never stopped. And it makes sense. And don't get me wrong, I think that's fully understandable and I respect that, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
And Joe had a nice meeting with Nick Castle. What did he say to you?
Well, it was great meeting all the stars, because I had them signing our posters for the radio show, which was something different that most of them don't get to sign. So they would always sort of point out like, wow, this is awesome. Let me just look at this. And that would usually open up a door to talk a little bit more. And I try to, like, obviously we're all there for Halloween and stuff, but like Nick, I would bring up that I grew up on Last Starfighter, try to change it up from the usual things all the guys usually bring up. And you get to usually have a good moment with them. And I think I'm used to always trying to rush through those moments with the stars, but these guys this weekend, everybody was just chatting with you, just talking. And it was great. It was fun. They were all awesome. Nobody seemed like prima donnas or too cool for school or anything like that. When you went up and talked to them, they were all very humble, very willing to give you.
Oh no, everybody was super friendly, super friendly.
So that was my biggest pro for the con. Anyway.
Yeah, I would say that one of my biggest pros is very similar to that. The approachability of all the talented people that were part of all the Halloween franchise films, and both behind the scenes and in front of the cameras. You could talk to them. They were there. So I was saying to Joe, even if you don't want to wait in the line and go up and get like an autograph, I'm not really an autograph person, personally, but even just to be like standing 2 feet away from James Jude Courtney, or standing 2 feet away from Rick Rosenthal, like that's just, it's so surreal and so cool. And when you have so much respect for so many of these people, and just being in the room and feeling that almost like the Halloween fandom has like a very familial vibe, and I've always been saying that this convention every 5 years, I always say it's like the Halloween franchise family reunion, and that vibe really is the way it is there. Mm-hmm. And so that's definitely a positive. I'll bring up a couple of things that I thought were negatives, mm-hmm. just to be fair. I thought that the convention was a little disorganized from a what would it be from? What perspective
from
would it be?
From a fan's perspective, in terms of having a little direction on how to
like
get
the lines and people putting you in lines for the vendors. I've never gone to a convention where you have to get in lines to go up to the vendor tables. Yeah. And you'd get into a line for like the Fright Rags table, and you were in that line for 30 minutes, and then they'd switch the line around. And now all of a sudden, the people that were at the back of the line are suddenly at the front of the line, and you're waiting another 40 minthere
are a lot of lines. Let's put it that way. Yeah. I know lines are going to be part of
understandable.
It is. It's part of it, but
there was nobody. It just felt a little like there was nobody. There was no leaders.
There were just certain parts of the convention I think you could have anticipated the lines, and it seemed like they didn't. But it's a lot of people to herd and manage and get. Around a small area.
Bryce was just saying it was very surreal. And yeah, that's the word I've been using all weekend. I could not agree with you more. That is the word. And there was a moment this afternoon where I'm standing there with my arm around Danielle Harris, and literally like almost like having this little personal moment where I'm sort of just like talking to her like this close, like saying, "Oh, it's so nice that you're here. I've always wanted to say hello to you, blah, blah, blah." And I'm just like, my arm is around Danielle Harris. What is going on right now? And it's just like mind blowing. And she was so personable and friendly, treated me like I'm somebody she's known half her life.
Well, they all did. That's what was great.
It was so warm. It just, the vibe was so warm.
You just felt like you're with a big family when you were talking to the directors. I mean, Rick Rosenthal saw the poster and asked for one and thought it was great and asked about the show.
Yeah, the Haddonfield radio posters, basically like these right here.
Yeah. So, I mean, and okay, well, the best interaction we had was with Chris.
I like Scary. What's going on? It's so nice to see you. I love your posts. I love your pages. I follow everything you do. This is so awesome to see you.
Christopher Nelson.
Oh my God.
We got to bring it up.
Maybe after putting my arm around Danielle Harris, maybe my other favorite part of the entire weekend was the most incredible interaction we had with Chris Nelson. And first off, like everybody says, it's just so true. It's almost gotten to be a cliche because it's so true, but what a gentleman. And like, what a friendly, like genuinely friendly, down to earth. And this guy is an Oscar winner who has been involved in so many iconic productions, whose artwork is like transcendent even for his craft. And to me, I always say that he's like the heir apparent to Tom Savini. That's who he is to me. And Tom Savini to me is like talking about a religious figure. So it's big. It's a big shoes to fill. Like I feel like it's like Dick Smith, Tom Savini, Chris Nelson. Maybe other people disagree, but in that style of effects work, I think that's that legacy that I see a through line through. But Chris was so nice, and not only that, and not to sound like egotistical assholes, but he said like, "Oh, I really like listening to your show. Oh, you know, it's I listen to your episode." It's like
Yeah, I feel like you didn't have to
my
say it,
my
and you
brain
did,
was like
so it was
leaking out. I
nice.
was trying to be cool and be down to earth,
There
but my
was
brain was leaking
there
out
were
of my
so many.
ear.
Now I gotta also say you have to imagine now you're talking to this guy and he's got 3 masks from the all 3 movies of the new trilogy sitting right there in front of him. So he's trying to like talk to us, and I'm also kind of like, yeah, but there's masks. I want to, these are the masks, and it was just so much going on. It was awesome, and to hear that he listens to the show was awesome. So
I want to say hello to John Michael Bennett. Hi, John Michael Bennett. I love that name, John Michael. I'm just going to call you John Michael from now on.
there you go.
And also, who else stopped in here? Robert Wagner. What's up? I totally
The
agree with
Robert
you.
Wagner.
Robert, wow, Robert Wagner. Who didn't he throw an actress off a boat
I
and
don't
she
know.
died? Robert, that was naughty.
We're on to you.
Robert Wagner said, where was that again? Christopher Allen Nelson was so incredibly nice and cool.
I mean,
Absolutely.
everybody was. They really were. I mean,
He said that we were classy, but honestly, the truth is he is classy. A super friendly guy, and again, like in the pantheon all time makeup effects people, like I put him up in my top 5.
mhm.
And I've been like a long time horror nerd my whole life. I'm 48. I'm going to be 49. My whole life has been really I've loved horror and growing up with Fangoria and Gore Zone and Splatterhouse magazine, and so really obsessing over makeup effects technicians. And Chris is like way up there, and his work in the last 3 Halloween movies
Well, right, yeah.
is like, to me,
Well, so
he's like a hero of that.
when we would do our episodes, we always talked about as they would make the sequels, like one of the first meetings should be about the mask, right, and the house. And like I feel like they didn't get that right till they got back to Chris Nelson, and he started doing his masks because he got it right. Now I'm not dissing all the others; they all have their charm.
Yeah, I get it.
But he was able to bring it kind of full circle, back to that original
Yeah,
looking beautiful sculpt. But anyway,
everything scary. Hello, I see you there. It was a very great pleasure to meet you.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody we met, I mean, there was not one like dickhead in the lot. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Everybody was so cool and so nice. And again, I have to keep saying it. It felt like a family
Yeah.
atmosphere, and like everybody was coming together for this big family reunion. And there's no drama that I saw. It just seemed like everywhere, every time I would scan the hall and scan everyone's smiling, everybody's happy.
I mean, we had like even the
like
fans were nice.
The guests too. They're all smiling. Everybody seemed like happy to be there.
We had just somebody else who was in line with us.
Yeah.
And we had to get out of the line. We were waiting for an autograph.
Oh my God, this is
for
Tom Atkins, which was a huge line.
We were waiting forever, and then he had to go do a panel. And this woman saw how disappointed we were, and they were giving out like numbers so you could come back and not wait in line. And she got us one and found us and gave it to us.
And she
saved
like
us a lot
literally
of time.
came and found us and hunted us down so that we could get back in that place in line. And she didn't know us from Adam. She just was just being nice.
It was. I know. We were sitting there going like, wait a minute, why did she do that? And then we kind of thought for a minute and went, I guess she was being nice.
Yeah, we're from the East Coast. And when you're on the East Coast, people just aren't very nice. When you come out to the West Coast, it's sort of like overwhelming because everyone's so friendly and people are smiling.
Oh, I
don't trust that.
Try to start conversations with me in my life in line.
People smile at me. I feel like it's going to be Pennywise or something like that. Like in the East Coast, if people are smiling, you better run because something bad's about to happen. But over here, it's just friendly people and just warm-hearted people, which is very strange.
Another pro of the con were the vendors. There was some awesome stuff for sale. I wish I hadn't had to fly here. I would have bought a lot more, but there was a ton of artwork. I could have bought t-shirts and posters all day long if I wanted to.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's some great vintage stuff. There were some books that aren't quite out yet. You got the new making of the
making of the Halloween trilogy. Yeah, that big. It's like a big hard
it's
coffee
just
table
about to come out, and they had them there.
Freaking amazing.
It's really good.
You got to get it if you don't have it already. It's amazing. I just want to say hello to Horror Man 93. Horror Man 93. I love that. I really am happy to see you here. Thank you. And thank you so much for listening to our commentaries. We obviously, if you guys have been following our Haddonfield Radio YouTube channel, we just finished up the Halloween franchise. recently. We're going to be embarking on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise starting in November, doing fan commentary deep dives. But that doesn't mean, obviously, like we said during our Halloween Ends episode, we're not leaving Halloween in the past. We're still doing all the Halloween trailers over on our Trailer Park series. So, and we've got other things certainly that'll stem from this convention.
We're going to be doing probably our next live episode will be towards the end of the month, a Halloween.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to do like a ranking. Yeah. We're going to rank the movie. Yeah. We're going to give you our
favorite scenes, our ranking of the movies.
Just basically an overview of the franchise.
Just a fun night talking about
an overview of season 1, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Yep. Who do we got there? Corey Bird. No, Corey Bird. He's you rock.
A longtime fan.
Yeah, yes, I love you, man. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with us here for a little while.
Also at the con, we got because we finished season 1.
That's right.
As a little thank you to ourselves,
we went and got mine looks terrible because I've got the wrap on it and it's
still got stuff on it. But we got
Joe doesn't have blood because he didn't bleed. I look like a gross mess.
There's probably something to be said about that.
But we got the Cult of Thorn
blood
tattoos.
And no blood.
I think the tattoo artist thought something funny was happening between Joe and I because we were getting matching tattoos.
I made sure to explain why we got.
And we were kissing on the lips. That too.
Oh boy.
Don't cancel me. Give me a break. This is live. So that was fun.
So that
Cult of Thorn tattoos. And the weird thing is we thought we were like getting the Cult of Thorn tattoos. And then at every single tattoo booth, people are getting Cult of Thorn tattoos.
Another artist come over and looking like, oh, he's getting a thorn too. And kind of just walk away. I'm like, hey, well, hey.
Everything scary. Let's see. Christopher Nelson was the sweetest man. I love what you guys do. I love what you do. Everything scary. I love everything scary.
When we were talking to Christopher Nelson, the other thing was, he was so generous with his time that I actually started to feel bad for the rest of the people in line. I'm like, I feel like we're eating him up, but he was talking to us. We didn't keep it going. He really gave us a lot of time, and that was awesome.
And that brings me to another negative. That's not really a critique of the convention, but it is a negative. And I think if any of you guys were at this convention or go to conventions in general, you might know what I'm talking about. When you're in line because you really passionately want to meet one of the people from one of these movies, a filmmaker or an actor, and maybe just get the 8x11 sign just so you can have a chance to say hello to them. And you have that guy in front of you who literally has a wheelbarrow full of crap, and he doesn't care at all, or she at all, about Halloween. They just want to get this stuff up on eBay and get 500 things signed and none of it personalized because they just want to sell it. I just think that's so cynical and aggravating, especially at a thing like this that's really like everyone's there out of love, and everyone's there because they love these movies and love the people who are behind these movies. And I understand people got to make a living, and there are people who make a living through collecting, and people make a living through eBay, and I get that. But I just think, like, I have to say, to me, it just feels cynical and just irritating. So anyway.
And on that note, I did pick up the Dr. Chalice.
Well, go close. Let them see it. Let them get it in there.
This was one of the exclusives. It's hard because of the light. Yeah.
Angle it.
Yeah. I'll turn it.
Look at this. Now, there was only 1,000 of these made. You were allowed to get 2 per person. They released 500 of them on day 1, 500 of them on day 2. The first day, when we walked into the convention right at 11 o'clock, the line to get the Dr. Chalice figure was as long as time. It can, as long as you can imagine. But on day 2, Joe just walked right up and got the 2 Dr. Chalice figures, and they were worth it because they're very cool. And what else did you pick up?
So
Fright Rags.
Well, these were Fright Rags was selling the plastic meatball exclusive variants.
Get in there, show them, get them close.
The bloody variants are their Michael and Laurie figures, and those were fairly easy to obtain. And I love the packaging on the back of these. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the plastic meatball figures.
Oh, this series is so cool.
They have about 6 or 8 figures out now, and they're awesome. The Dr. Loomis is awesome.
And they really capture that 1970s, like almost like the 70s Star Wars figure feeling. That kind of like stiffness of those original early action figures from the 70s. They kind of have that feel to them. And obviously, like, the whole presentation of it is just like that. I mean, look at those. I mean, that's just so worth staying in an hour-long line. Like, it really is. Like, and I didn't even get them. They were just Joe. I just waited in line to get this cool hat. It says 1981 on the back. Cool hat, yeah. Let's see up close.
There you go. The classic H2.
And they had one with the the knife going into the pumpkin
I
from
mean,
Halloween
Fright Rags
'78.
had some great shirts,
Oh
really
yeah,
good
lots of
stuff. I
good
mean, a
shit.
lot of all the vendors. Again, a plus was the vendors, and the con didn't have too many negatives besides just I feel like some
I've got
organization.
another one. No hoodies at any of the
I think it could be
vendors.
California.
And Joe's theory was
Uh,
because we're in California in a warm climate, they don't have hoodies, but nobody has hoodies.
I don't know.
I wanted like cool. I have so many t-shirts. Like I even said to Joe on the plane right here, like I can't do any more t-shirts. I just can't. But hoodies I will go for because like I wanted maybe a Terrifier hoodie, which is hard to find where I am at home.
Mhm.
I've like hunted through every Newberry Comics. Do they have Newberry Comics out here?
I
Well,
don't
Newberry
know. I don't
Comics, if you
know.
don't know what it is, like it's not really a comic store. It's sort of just like
Commercialized comic
a
store,
commercialized comics
CDs,
chain,
comics, all that.
and they have like yeah, exactly. But I couldn't find it. I want a Terrifier, a cool
Mhm.
Terrifier hoodie, but anyway, they didn't have them. What are you gonna do?
Now,
Oh, really quick, Nick, what's that? Nick, who's there? Oh, Nick Alfieri.
oh
What's
yeah,
going on,
yes.
man?
Hello, hello.
Hello, Nick. It's very, very nice to see you. I'm so glad that you stopped by. Nick asked, we were originally going to be doing a meet and greet
Yeah,
at the Art House, but it turned out the Art House wasn't too thrilled with that idea.
the places, all the places were packed. It was very hard to
Yeah,
organize things,
I
and
can't
I
blame them.
apologize.
We're like rabble rousers. You don't
We're-
want us in there.
this whole trip was a new thing for us. We made it. We got here. It did not go as smoothly as we expected, but
Yeah.
we're here. But the other thing, and I don't want to always keep hopping on any negatives about the con, but just as because I do a lot of the sci-fi cons, I do think that they could have had a little more display pieces, cool things for the fans to interact with that were fun to just take pictures with, whether they're props or backdrops or more display
Like they had like one like cabinet that had some
a
actual
couple things, but
props from the movies,
it was-
and that was so cool. And it did change during the course of the 2 days what was
Yeah.
inside it, but I would have liked maybe a little bit more of that.
I didn't even really know it was there. It was like at the last second we saw it, but I don't know. It was 2 days seemed to be enough for this type of a con.
And
I
also,
thought it was going to be a little bigger. I'm not going to kid you. Like the room itself, they didn't
it was
even
a
use
big
up
room.
the whole room though. But
and also they have this. If you were there, you'll know what I'm saying. But otherwise, I'm going to try to describe it the best I can. They have the main big room where all like the actors are, directors, and then they had the outside hallway leading into the ballroom. And they had some more people signing out there. But the weird thing is, it was some huge people they stuffed
Yeah.
into the hallway.
I'm surprised.
They stuffed Malcolm McDowell into the hallway. They stuffed Don Shanks into the hallway.
Yeah.
And a Tyler Maine was in the hallway. And it was very, very strange. Like, come on, like.
Now, I don't know. Like, again, I don't do a lot of horror conventions. Maybe in terms of horror conventions, this was really big and a lot more to do than usual. But from where I'm coming from science fiction cons, there was just less to do. Usually there's some more stuff besides vendors
Yeah.
and guests to meet.
I
But
mean,
no, there were the panels.
the panel. Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah.
And it's always great to go hear everybody talk. You do, I feel like, hear a lot of the same stories a lot of the times. But obviously, the one panel that everybody was excited for was the big one tonight that John Carpenter was showing up for.
Yep.
And he was, it was advertised as him with Nick Castle, but it ended up being Nick Castle and him and Tommy Lee Wallace.
Nancy Loomis, PJ
Souls.
Who
So
else? Oh, Bob.
and Bob, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the actor's name.
Yeah, but he's Bob.
But
Frickin' Bob.
but they all got up there, and although it was great to hear these legends talk, and John Carpenter was in a great mood.
Oh,
and-
he
and
was like in a
joking
great
around
mood.
and everything. It was directionless. As much as I
Okay,
hate saying it,
They
there's
didn't even have like a
nobody
moderator.
helping them, and
And you have Sean Clark there. Now, you guys probably know who Sean Clark is, Horror's Hallowed Grounds, very, very well-known YouTuber, very, very well-known talent manager for a lot of the people that appear at these horror conventions, and just a very gregarious guy. He has his own podcast, The Thing with Two Heads, that he does with Chris Nelson.
yeah,
And
don't
my
get me wrong, we love him. I'm not.
no,
yeah.
absolutely. One of my
Just
favorite
surprised.
podcasts. Very friendly guy, treated us really nice. But you'd think maybe they would have said, maybe he'd like to get up and moderate.
Just help him out.
Even Malik Akkad, who did get up on stage, he could have moderated it. But they sort of just left Carpenter up there to sort of vamp.
Yeah, it was weird. It was they just waited for guests to come to a mic, and it was only Q&A. Really, there was no pre-planned questions like asked by the con or any projects they had in mind for them to talk about. They just kind of put them on stage in front of all of us, and it was awkward for a few minutes. It took a little while before fans were coming up and kind of asking questions.
But just to be in the room,
it was cool
with John Carpenter.
Yeah.
For me, was like one of the most exciting moments I'd say ever for me. I have to admit, when John Carpenter was first taking the stage, like I did almost feel a little bit misty, because it just reminds me of, all my entire life of loving his work and loving the mystique of John Carpenter and the mystique of his films, and just seeing him there and feeling the energy. Like, it's like if you go to a concert and you in a band, when they come out on stage and you literally feel physical energy coming from an audience aimed at the people that they're there to see. And it felt that way when he came out.
You feel like I don't want to put him on too much of a pedestal, but it's like,
I think you can. It's John Carpenter.
Somebody has walked out that is greater than all of us. He's an elevated
human being. We are all in that room.
You know what I mean?
And we have all come to this place and made this pilgrimage because of what came out of his imagination, Deborah Hill's imagination, Tommy Lee Wallace's imagination, Nick Castle's imagination. These guys that were this little group of friends that just wanted to make a film, they got together almost 50 years ago and created this little independent film. And now 45 years later, this entire giant event of people, these passionate people, have come together because of it. So it's really just such a beautiful thing. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it.
I loved was seeing Carpenter up there with his like childhood friends. At the end of the day, when you see the way that him and Tommy Lee Wallace and Nick Castle kind of interact and poke fun at each other and make the jokes, it just reminds me of hanging out with my buddies. And you see that they are still at this age, probably the guys they were when they were all hanging out in their 20s and teens. And, I mean, Tommy Lee Wallace said they were actually, him and John Carpenter, in school since kindergarten. They just didn't hang out till their teens, but they
had a band. John Carpenter, Tommy Lee Wallace, Nick Castle had a band, the Coupe de Villes.
Yeah, that was.
They were on stage together again. It was like seeing three old friends just hanging out for 35 minutes.
It's funny,
and we were there in the room with it, and it was like totally awesome.
People were asking them to do a Coupe de Ville
reunion,
and he was like, "No one wants to hear us sing." I'm like, "No, but I will listen to you guys jam."
Yeah, but everybody does want to hear that.
Yeah, just pick up
we all definitely do,
just for the fun of it.
Do a cappella. We will be very happy with that. I just want to say hello to Bay Area Throwbacks. What's going on, my man or my woman? I'm not sure your gender. I shouldn't be gendering you anyway, at all. But It's nice to see you.
Hey, what else was fun at the con? I thought that getting to see you from across the room, getting your picture and hug with Danielle Harris.
Oh my God!
I know this was a big deal for him, guys. I want you to
literally.
understand.
Let me give you a little bit of context here. Like,
I think if you go back to our episode, I don't know, one of the later ones, you said you had like a little crush on her back then.
Well, when I was young.
Yes, exactly.
Not at 49.
No.
I had a crush on Jamie Lloyd.
And then to see you now, like getting to meet her, and you're so happy, and you were beaming over there. I mean, like, this was.
I just have tremendous respect for her. I said on our episode 4 of Haddonfield Radio, when we did Halloween 4, that I think that Danielle Harris's performance in Halloween 4 is, in my opinion, one of the greatest child acting performances ever. And I mean that legitimately. I mean, not just in the horror genre context, but just in movie history. I think her performance is so iconic and so brilliant, and she brings so much genuine emotion. And the reason people, all these years later still love that character and still love Danielle Harris is it speaks the truth of what I'm saying, is that she made an indelible impression on generations of fans. And then when you're up next to her, as I'm sure many of you guys have, if you go to horror conventions, because I know she's very generous with her time and with fans. So a lot of you out there probably met her. But this for me was the first time. And like I said, she literally, when she first came over to me, she treated me like she's known me forever. It almost threw me off because she was so warm to me. And I said to Joe, and this sounds weird, but I only mean it in like a very gentle and loving sense. When she put her arm on my hand on my back, she was like going like this to my back when she was talking to me, and I felt like the chills, and it wasn't out of any creepy way. It was just out of I just felt like loved, like she loves her fans. She doesn't love her fans in some cynical way, like, oh, I can milk $40 out of each one of them. No, no, no. You can absolutely tell that Danielle Harris loves her fans and her position in horror history, and she's protective of it as she should be. And all I have to say is she treated me very warmly. And I was watching her deal with and interact with other fans, and it looked like she was giving that same warmth to everybody. And that's a lot. I mean, you're giving something of yourself to other people that you don't know.
It's not uncommon when you go to conventions and you meet stars for them to just sort of, barely look up. Sometimes they just take the picture, sign, thank you, move on. So for any of these guys to, it's very different. Like I keep saying, when I do the sci-fi cons, I think I'm almost used to meeting all these Star Wars guys who kind of come in with a little more bravado, and you're a little more like, oh, these are stars. And then I got to meet all these people that I'm a little more starstruck by, because I don't know. I feel like these Halloween actors and directors got me more than the Star Wars people in terms of like being starstruck. But they were so warm. I mean, PJ Souls was asking me how I hurt my hand, and
Joe got stitches right before the convention.
Just,
so
like it was like having my aunt worry about me and asking if I'm okay and if I needed anything. And it was nice. It was a good time.
A couple of quick comments. Robert Wagner said Danielle was so kind while I was geeking out. I totally agree. I'm telling you. See, that exactly proves my point. If you're a human being and you give a little bit of yourself like that to all these people over and over, that's got to be exhausting, psychically, physically, emotionally. And yet she's there for it, and she does it. She goes for it 100%. And I if she ever sees this, you really, literally, you didn't just make my convention or my day. You made the last 35 years. Chef's kiss. And I just smacked the mic.
I want to say default 0418. Yes, she is the opposite of Margot Kidder.
Oh, Joe's got a good Margot Kidder story.
That's what they're referencing.
Oh my God, it's a reference.
Yes, exactly.
Margot Kidder did not treat Joe with much. She refused to give him
money from us.
She wouldn't give Joe back his change when we met Margot Kidder years ago
in California.
I want to say Horror Man 93. Have you guys seen her in Natty Knocks? I have not seen the movie yet. It's in my queue, iTunes queue to watch.
You know what we need to talk about?
But I'm definitely going to watch it.
So on the plane ride over, Christian's telling me I got to watch this movie, No One Will Save You.
Oh,
Did I get the title right?
It was a Hulu movie, that 20th Century Fox Hulu premiere for Spooktober.
I kind of regret that I watched it on the plane, only because it was so damn scary that I can only imagine if I wasn't on the plane. Or maybe on the plane made it scarier.
Okay, we're in mid-flight, and we did the red eye through the night, and I'm finally falling asleep because I get anxiety going through the airport, and I'm finally falling asleep, and Joe starts with his headphones on, elbowing me, scaring the people in the row in front of him.
Come on, it wasn't.
The pilot's like lurching because Joe's having a fit.
I jumped. The movie was great. If you want, I don't know if I would call it horror, but it's scary.
It's horror.
It's sci-fi mixed with horror.
It's horror.
It's really.
If you haven't seen it,
creepy, scary.
When you're finished with this live stream,
highly recommend it.
Go on Hulu. No One Will Save You. Directed by Brian Duffield. There's one of my favorite films of 2023.
No dialogue in it, which you would think,
dialogue.
Hey, that's an odd choice, but it works. Great effects. And
I said to Joe, it's one of these alien movies where for once the aliens are behaving like aliens.
Yeah.
It's not predictable behavior. The
so
aliens like doing these weird body movements and things. It's just abstract. And the whole time watching it, I feel like I don't understand what's going on.
For once, it's one of these alien movies where you kind of know there's aliens creeping around, and they're not taking forever before you actually get to them.
There's no wait.
You are thrust into aliens in your face, and it being scary as hell.
Margot Kidder is also scary as hell. Believe me.
But that's a good movie. Good movie. Go check it out. No One Will Save You.
Another one. I want to throw another one out there while we're on the subject. Joe still hasn't watched it. I've been telling him for weeks now. He's like, I'm going to see it. I'm going to watch it. It's called, I know, it's big surprise, very obscure movie no one's heard of. Talk to Me. Holy God. Now, I wanted to watch this movie because I watch anything new in horror. I try to catch everything. Natty Knox, I haven't seen that one yet, so shame on me. But I do try to catch as much as I can. And the first reason I wanted to see Talk to Me was because it was made by YouTubers. And so I felt like, well, that's pretty cool. YouTubers made a horror movie. I'm going to check it out. And this is like an amazing movie, and the proof is in the pudding because all around the H45 convention, I kept seeing people in "Talk to Me" T-shirts, "Talk to Me" hoodies, "Talk to Me" hats. I said, "See, look at this! Like permeating pop culture and permeating the horror community as it well should." And it's definitely like it reminds me of the movie. It doesn't remind me of the movie Smile. They're very different movies, but the way what Smile was to 2022, I feel like Talk to Me is to 2023. It's like that breakout horror movie, that breakout horror voice that's brand new that you definitely see is going. This is these two guys, I think they're called the Filippo brothers. They're going to be in the future of horror, just like Zach Kreger, who made Barbarian, Parker Finn, who made Smile. Like these are guys who are not only going to be building out franchises from what they've done in the last couple of years, but these are guys that are going to be, defining what the future of horror is. And if that's the case, then horror is in very good hands, in my opinion. What did you guys think of Talk to Me? Let us know in the comments. Let us know. I'd love to hear it. Well, anyway, go back to the what?
How long ago did Talk to Me come out now?
21 years ago.
Oh.
No, Talk to Me. It probably, I don't know, months ago.
A couple months ago.
I told you the day I didn't see it in the theaters.
Yeah.
I saw it. I pre-ordered it on iTunes and got it and watched it the night it came out. So if you look up, so it had to be within the last month and a half, maybe even less.
And No One Will Save You was strictly through Hulu. You said, right? Did it come out in theaters?
Yeah. Oh, it was a success story in theaters.
Oh,
yeah.
it was. Oh, it was.
Now let's see. Default 0418 says, "Talk to Me was promoted as being the scariest movie ever. Does it even remotely live up to the hype?" No, absolutely not. No. If anytime somebody says something is the scariest movie ever, it's you're just dealing with marketing.
Yeah, you gotta
It's
be honest.
pure marketing. It's boxed in marketing. Okay, because that's such a subjective term to begin with that it's almost impossible to make that claim. And number two, come on. But does something have to be the scariest movie ever to be excellent or to be worth your while
Or just to be
or to
scary.
make an impact on you or to make you want to sleep with the lights on? No. Would I say it is one of the scariest movies I've seen of the year? Probably. But then again, I'm so inured to horror movies. I don't necessarily feel scared by horror movies. But do I think the filmmaking in terms of it being scary is on point? 100%.
That's why I love No One Will Save You. I mean, I hadn't felt that jumpy and scared in a long time.
Angel Cruz asks, and hello, Angel Cruz. What's going on? Thank you for joining us. It's very nice to see you. What's the scariest movie that you've seen, Joe?
I don't know about movie, but you know what? In my head, I will always go to as a scene that has scared me the most out of any movie. And it's not necessarily a horror movie, but do you remember the Twin Peaks movie Fire Walk with
It
Me?
has one of the scariest moments of all time in it.
That's what I'm. Is it the same thing?
The Bob in the bedroom?
Yes. When Bob comes crawling out.
Well, no. The thing is, he's just behind the bedpost.
Right.
And and David Lynch scans the camera across the bedroom, Laura Palmer's bedroom, and he's just in the shot, and he just like,
and then he kind of starts
obsequiously in the shot, and it's horrifying.
It is.
It's famous.
Yeah.
Just like, another moment like that. That's obviously one of the more obvious, greatest scares ever is, the nun coming out of the closet in Exorcist 3.
Yeah.
One of the greatest jump scares ever.
I do remember, this is kind of obvious, but I remember seeing Blair Witch in the theater and being pretty freaked out.
I was going to say Blair Witch is one of the scariest experiences I've ever seen in a movie, and I'm glad you said that.
Experience. It would be a good way to put it.
Because in the context of this, now I'm blanking on the year Blair Witch came out, but I saw it the Friday night it opened. And when Blair Witch first opened in theaters, that opening weekend, which predated internet, phones, everybody thought this movie was real. Everybody thought it wasn't. Yeah. Everybody thought that this was a found footage. This predates. It doesn't predate the found footage genre, of course, because you have things like Cannibal Holocaust that come way before it. But it certainly popularized the found footage format
Mhm.
and found footage subgenre.
Mhm.
But at that time, when that opening weekend of Blair Witch, everybody thought this was real.
Yeah.
And I will never forget. There's two movie experiences I'll never forget that are very similar. And I've said it before in Haddonfield Radio, the way that horror movies and comedy movies are like kissing cousins and are engineered very similarly with scares and with laughs. Well, here's the weird comparison. When I went that opening night of Blair Witch was one of the most extremely scary times I've ever been in a movie theater, where I actually witnessed people running out of the movie theater, people pulling their legs up off the ground,
Mhm.
people so scared that they're literally screeching. And that in the comedy corollary I'd put to that is going the Friday night that Borat opened. And the weirdest thing is it was almost the exact same thing.
Huh.
People screaming at the theater, people running out in having emotional outbursts, people that are laughing so hard they can't
Yeah.
breathe.
Yeah.
In the energy in both of those cinemas, I always compare those movies together because the movie theater experience for both those films was so similar, and that's like so uniquely interesting to me about how comedy and horror, when done right, are almost exactly the same. They're like mirror images of each other.
Yeah.
But is Blair Witch the scariest movie I've ever seen?
No, no, no.
Probably,
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure.
Can you say any movie is the scariest?
I'll tell you a movie, a horror movie. I've mentioned this on Haddonfield Radio, that anytime I have a chance to just talk general horror, I always bring up my favorite horror film. I might be able to answer my scariest one in 1 second. Something just occurred to me. But one of probably my favorite horror film of the last 23 years, say of the 21st century. I don't know how many of you guys have seen it, but David Pryor's 2021 movie, The Empty Man. If you guys haven't seen The Empty Man, it's a 2.5 hour long horror epic. If you can watch the first 25 minutes, which is almost like its own little short film before the credits, and you're not completely hooked and completely sucked in, then I don't know what kind of horror fan you are. If you haven't seen this movie, The Empty Man, I implore you to go and watch it. It is my favorite horror film of the last 23 years. But you know what I will say is probably, in my opinion, the scariest movie I've ever seen? Because of the night I watched it, the subjective effect it had on me, the insane, incredibly gifted filmmaker that made it, and the incredible filmmaking of it is probably Ari Aster's Hereditary. Hereditary literally disturbed me deeply. And then Midsommar, the night I saw that, a Friday night, it opened in the movie theater, and I walked out of that
I
movie
think a
theater.
lot of people.
I was
heard,
sick
yeah.
to my stomach when
Yeah.
I left that movie
Yeah.
theater. I was so disturbed by I think, let me just put it out there. I think Ari Aster literally is the most legitimate genius filmmaker since Polanski. I think
For just horror or film?
period.
Okay.
I think Ari Aster is literally a genius filmmaker. And I hate to use the word genius. I hate that word because it's been diluted so much in especially in American consciousness, that term. But Ari Aster to me is a literal genius. And Midsommar, Beau is Afraid, Hereditary, I think he's 3 for 3. I'll give you one other director that I think is 3 for 3, S. Craig Zahler. He's made this incredible horror Western you got, maybe some of you guys have seen, called Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell. That's incredibly disturbing and imagine a frightening Western. Well, that's what that is. And then he made Brawl in Cell Block 99 with Vince Vaughn, which I think is an effing masterpiece. And then he made Dragged Across Concrete with Mel Gibson. And I don't care what any of you snowflakes say. I love Mel Gibson. I will always love Mel Gibson. So take that to the bank.
So speaking of
Yeah.
the scary
That was
Western.
a little long-winded. Sorry.
No, that was a great rant or speech.
It was a rant. Let's be honest.
Remember when John Carpenter, during his panel, someone asked him about since he's such a fan of Westerns, has he considered doing more Westerns?
Oh, yes.
And I thought
yes.
it was interesting that Tommy Lee Wallace said, well, I consider Big Trouble in Little China a Western.
Yeah, see, I didn't get that.
And I was trying, exactly, that's what I'm about to say. And I kept saying,
it's more, it's like, to me, it's a total Eastern.
I mean, maybe,
if it's anything.
Maybe in their approach of
and John Carpenter,
but
during that panel, when Tommy Lee Wallace said that, I almost said Tommy Lee Jones. When Tommy Lee Wallace said that, well, actually, I think Big Trouble in Little China is a Western. John Carpenter sparked up right away and was like, oh, well, it is. Oh, that totally. It
Yeah.
totally
So
is.
like there's something that they know about with their approach to that movie that they consider Western, stemming from their love of Westerns. But
Horror Man 93. You're called Horror Man 93 and you haven't seen Bone Tomahawk. Tisk tisk, Horror Man 93, you naughty little creature. Get over there and go get that movie and watch it, or else I'm coming to get
you
you.
should do on our Halloween special. You should put together a list of your top 10 like movies you don't think people have seen that they should go see. Because I'll have to admit, I mean, I love horror movies. I see a lot, but I can't go toe to toe with Christian with how many you watch it and how much you can retain.
I try to watch. I try to.
Names and
Yeah,
everything.
I mean, I try to watch a movie every day. And it's tough now. I mean, it's as we all know, you're being offered so much now. And I hate the word content. So much content.
Well, I hate the way movies don't have time to do anything in theaters, and they're just so quickly put out to the public.
They're pushed in and pushed out.
There's no wait. There's no big hoopla.
Yeah, that window has shrunk. And look, I'm on the other side of that. I love it because I love if I didn't get a chance to get out to the theater, that I know like a month from now I'm going to be able to buy it on iTunes. So for me, I mean, I get it in terms of like
for the movie. To me, it's like a movie loses its impact the way they're being marketed and released these days. I'm with you that I feel like the movie experience has in these later years has left me like I'd rather not go to the movies if I know I can see it in my house at some point.
Right.
Just because I mean, I know I'm just going to sound like a cranky old man, but I can't tell you how many of the last movies I've seen in theaters, the experience was just ruined by the people around me talking, not understanding, that we're here to see a movie, apparently, that they're just hanging out on their phones and whatnot. So
Angel Cruz, I'd like to ask you, what is the scariest movie you've ever seen? Let us know, and I'll tell everybody. Just let us know. If you're still listening, let us know. I'm very curious. Everybody listening, what's the scariest movie you guys have ever seen? Let us know. I would love to see your list out here on the comments. I'm reading everything you guys are writing. Yeah, I don't know.
I think
horror. Just funny. Just today in line, we were in one of the lines. I don't know what line I was in, but a couple people behind me, I heard saying, "Oh, there hasn't been any good horror movies in years. There's nothing like the 70s and the 80s. The horror movies now they suck." And I was just, when you just desperately want to turn around, you desperately want to turn around and say something like, "Come on, man." I think we're in a beautiful golden age of horror. I think there's a lot of incredible talent out there right now, and a lot of young people like just banging it out.
If
like
you're
banging
a fan
it out
of the 70s, 80s horror movies, it's over. You're not going to get that type of a horror movie anymore. And I think there's a lot of people that are lamenting that, but don't understand it's over. I mean, it's progress. It's how time moves on. It's how any art progresses and evolves, and new people take it in and redigest it. I don't know. No, so Carpenter was bringing up Jordan Peele as sort of the new guy.
Yeah, that's who he named as who came to his mind as like the heir apparent of horror.
Somebody that
I disagree
was putting his a twist on it, his own spin on it, doing something different. Which I see what he means.
I think his films are just so overrated.
But yeah, I'm not a huge fan.
I'm not a fan at all. I
did like
when I think of Jordan Peele, I say nope. Oh geez, this is what they used to pay me the big bucks for, but apparently not anymore.
Anyway, anything else you want about the con? I think
there's so many more things to talk about. What else? Did I tell you guys about the time I put my arm around Danielle Harris? That was a nice moment. Did we already talk about that one? No, the whole thing. I'm going to tell you. I feel like we sounded like negative Nellies. But honestly, I absolutely had the most wonderful time here in Pasadena. I had a wonderful time at the convention. Hold on, we got some people mentioning some things here. I just want to mention Horror Bloody Horror. Hello, Horror Bloody Horror. Horror Bloody Horror said the scariest movie of all time to him is The Exorcist, and I think that's a very, very fair and appropriate answer. I would ask what version of The Exorcist, and I would also add, I'm one of those creeps that prefers The Exorcist 2, The Heretic by John Borman, because I'm a creep.
Somebody over here is mentioning the M. Night Shyamalan. And I will say,
Oh, I love M. Night
I'm a little
Shyamalan.
hit or miss, but Signs, back on that scary alien thread from No One Will Save You, which I feel like had a lot of elements of Signs, sort of as well. But
Yeah,
I
it's
did, I
default
love
zero
Signs.
four one eight. Also mentioned The Village, and I think it's probably Shyamalan's most underrated movie.
Yeah.
I think it's such a first off the actual just like the look of that movie, and it's one of it's one of his best payoffs. And this is obviously back in that period of time where Shyamalan became obsessed and felt like burdened by the fact that everybody expected every one of his movies to have that Twilight Zone twist. And so he started to have to engineer these twists into his films until he realized it was ruining his films.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he didn't, and he just got bogged down by that and had to sort of I think around the time of The Visit, he had to sort of reset
Well,
himself completely.
as an audience member, you found yourself almost missing a lot of the movie because you're sitting there the whole time trying to figure
Figure
out
out
the
what's it
twist.
going to be.
What's the twist going to be before it happens?
What's the big? I want to be the smart guy who knows
Uh,
what's going on.
it, it, it,
I'll tell you a really quick story. M. Night Shyamalan. The Friday night that The Sixth Sense opened, and this is before he was M. Night Shyamalan, because I think he had only made like Chicken Little before that, and might have been a screenwriter. So this was like just a buzzy movie. And I went to that Friday night. And at the time, I was dating this girl named Lauren Vitale. And we went to see this movie together. And we're watching the movie. And about halfway through the movie, Lauren Vitale leans over and whispers in my ear, "Do you think Bruce Willis is dead?" And I said, "What?" And in my mind, I'm thinking, what the F are you talking? Don't, this is so embarrassing. What are you talking about? She's like, well, he hasn't changed his clothes once in the entire movie. And the whole rest of the movie, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot date this girl. This girl, what is this girl's problem? And then by the end of the movie, I'm like, she's like, mm. So yeah, I guess, she was a little bit faster than me. Not a big surprise. I'm an idiot. Let's see. We got a couple more comments here. Let's
The
see.
Visit.
Justin Fain. Justin Fain, what's going on, my friend? Hi, Justin. Blair Witch freaked me the F out when I watched it in high school. Also, the original Paranormal Activity. I didn't sleep at all the night I saw it. Well, first off,
See, I got obsessed with the Paranormal Activities for a little while.
like the series?
Well, the first couple movies were genuinely disturbing to me. Again, it was a new kind of scare, and I was like really into it because it was
like almost like an elevation of that found footage genre.
Yeah, because it felt real. It felt like you would see in your house. They presented it to you in that way, not in some very stylized, sleek camera work and with all this acting, and it
really kind of connects to the Halloween franchise, as we mentioned in one of our previous episodes, because of course Jason Blum.
Yeah.
And that's the movie that really put him as a producer on the map, and that's the movie that built Blumhouse. And Blumhouse is what took the Halloween franchise to its greatest heights.
Yep.
Now, whether you love the last 3 Halloween movies, or you like them, or you're ambivalent about them, or you hate them, what cannot be argued is that Blumhouse took that franchise and brought it to its greatest and widest audience ever, and turned them into blockbusters. And like I said in one of our Haddonfield radio episodes, the box office of, let's say, Halloween 2018 was like the type of box office that's reserved for like superhero tentpoles. Yeah, so that's a huge deal.
That's a horror movie.
That's like a cosmic explosion of growth for the franchise. And also brought in this whole new kind of group of fans and all these new fans into the Halloween franchise family, which is great, and brings us new blood in and new people and new perspectives in. And there was a lot of kids at this convention. Like kids.
Yeah.
There were a lot of like baby Michael Myers, like 6-year-old people in Michael Myers costumes.
I really don't know how to feel about that. You have to assume they have been shown Halloween, some of them, some of the Halloween movies. So I don't know. I don't know. I want to say I'm a pretty open-minded guy, but that some of these kids were little.
Horror Man 93 just brought up another one. One of the scariest experiences I've ever had in a movie theater. Mary Lambert's Pet Cemetery. Oh my God.
Shit, yeah.
I have to say, when we met Tommy Lee Wallace, I mentioned to him that I think the first 2 hours of his It adaptation from 1990, I think is one of the greatest Stephen King adaptations, most effective Stephen King adaptations ever. The first 2 hours.
Sorry, you're
I'm not
boring me.
crazy. Thank you. This is what I live with. Right? This is why we pre-record. The last 2 hours has its issues, but those first 2 hours of the Tim Curry
Yeah.
that's also some of the when I was 15, I slept with the lights on that night, the first night of that miniseries. But Pet Cemetery, Zelda with the twisted spine,
that horrified me.
horrific.
Horrified me.
That is genuinely terrifying. And I've often wondered why Mary Lambert didn't have a bigger horror career, because she's a really, really gifted horror director.
I can't
clearly
remember. Did Pet Cemetery do well in the box office though?
Well,
I'd
have
we were
to
young,
check
I
on
don't-
that.
Yeah.
What the box office? I think it made an impact.
Yeah.
But
And then what do you think about the trailers for the new one that's with David Duchovny right now?
oh well, that's like a prequel.
Yeah.
It's called Pet Cemetery Bloodlines.
No, I have to admit,
I think it's the Judd Crandall story of his youth. It's
Oh,
actually the
oh.
story of the neighbor. You know how the neighbor, the son came back from the war,
I gotcha.
and they buried him, and he comes back. I think it's that story. And maybe that would be interesting to see. I'm not getting like classy vibes from the trailers. It's not really speaking to me. Will I watch it? Probably. I love David Duchovny, so I'll kind of watch it just because he's in it, but I don't know. What else we have? Halloween, let's see, Horror Man 93. Halloween 2018 is the most successful slasher movie of all time. And that's absolutely true, and for good reason.
Yeah.
That trilogy is like historic,
But
financially historic.
And one of the biggest important things was it figured out a new way to keep reinventing the franchise if they wanted to. They started this, again, let's go back to one, forget everything else, and reinvent, which was I thought a brilliant idea.
Bryce just said, I lived alone when Paranormal Activity came out, had to sleep with the light on after watching it. I'm telling you, that's no joke. Like, that's a true thing. Like, I'm 49. And I know there have been movies like the night I watched Hereditary, I felt uneasy. I felt uneasy for days after that movie. Like, I was looking in the darkness at the corners of my bedroom, expecting Tony Collette to be floating there. So, have you seen Hereditary?
I have not.
Oh my Christ, Jesus, you're fired. I've had it with you.
I was worrying about the Halloween movies.
Oh, jeez. This is why we pre-record.
See you guys later.
Well, anyway, I'll take it from here.
Right.
Well, I don't know what else.
I don't know. I think overall it was a great weekend.
Hi, Nick Koch, Nick Cock. Hey, Nick Koch. Glad you guys got to finally make the Halloween fan pilgrimage to Pasadena. Halloween will always be the film that made me fall in love with the genre. Nick.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
Same here. I mean,
100%. And I love you.
As much as we're going to go on and talk about other film series, I mean, we started with Halloween for a reason.
Yeah.
Halloween was it was the movie that, I mean, like, you could hear any fan talk about. It's just the movie that stuck in my head, and I fall in love with. It's that movie. If it's on, if you're ever flipping it, you're never gonna just do something in the back and have that on the background. I stop and I watch it no matter what, it's just that type of a love for it,
Hold on. So I want to see what somebody mentioned a Spanish horror movie called The Baby's Room.
Yeah,
I've got to make a note of that.
Yeah.
Well, I can't see what your name is if you said that.
We can check the chat.
But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to write that one down, and I'm going to watch it on the plane ride home back to the East Coast. I love getting, I absolutely, if there's something I love more than getting horror recommendations of movies I've heard of and I know I need to see, even more than that, I love getting horror recommendations for movies I've never heard of and that are going to blow my mind. I'll give you guys one. Maybe a lot of you guys know this one. Maybe some of you do, some of you don't. Look up this movie called The Sadness from a couple of years back. Look it up. The Sadness. This movie, I don't know if any of you guys follow Meat Canyon on YouTube. He's an animator, and he does like really awesome little animated films. He also is a huge horror nerd, and he mentions a lot of really cool stuff. And he brought The Sadness to my attention through one of his videos, and that movie knocked my head right off. So that's definitely worth watching. Somebody mentioned Horror Man 93 mentioned Amityville 2. I think Amityville 2 improves in every single conceivable way over the original Amityville horror film. I think Amityville 2 should have been the first Amityville horror movie because I like the story better. I like the engineering of the scares. I think it's very, very. I like the way the sequences are constructed. So that's an awesome one.
Somebody's mentioning here Behind the Mask.
Oh, Leslie
Yeah,
Vernon. Oh my
I
God,
do
yeah.
love that movie. I wouldn't say I wasn't really scared by it, but it was a great movie, a great horror movie.
And it's a
I
great
loved
Robert Englund
watching.
performance. He
Yeah,
plays almost like Dr. Loomis.
yeah, yeah. It is great. I
It's
have
it's
that movie. I own that one. I loved it.
it's like a movie that I'm sort of shocked they never did more with that character of Leslie Vernon.
That mask is great. It's a very, simple, again, it goes back to, it's almost like the Michael thing. The simple designs are sometimes the
Oh, yeah,
scariest things,
absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
more blank a face is.
Another movie in that exact realm that you're mentioning is Mike Flanagan's Hush. That's a scary
Oh,
mask.
yes.
And that movie has this awesome hook
Yes, yeah.
about this essentially a slasher who's stalking this woman who happens to be deaf. She's alone in the house. She's deaf, and he's trying to get in the house. And so she can't count on her senses, or at least that sense. And Mike Flanagan, I said on, I think, our Halloween Ends episode of Haddonfield Radio, he's one of the guys I think that the Malika Cod and Trancas should consider if they wanted somebody to do a traditional Halloween film going forward. I think Mike Flanagan wouldn't be the worst person to talk to. And now I know, before you guys jump on me in the comments, I know he has publicly said that Hush is his Halloween, and he probably wouldn't be interested in jumping into the Halloween franchise. But just in a fantasy world, like fantasy baseball or fantasy football, I mean, Mike Flanagan, he has this mastery of small town horror and would just be so good for Haddonfield. I think if you were going to continue the existing kind of mythological motifs of the Halloween franchise. Now, like I've said before, personally, just devil's advocate, I'm speaking with him about him devil's advocate, because I'm all for leaving what's happened, like leaving the mythology that's come before in Halloween up until now, leaving it as foundational, and let's start something new. If we're going to go forward with Halloween, I think we need to start. Let's bring something new. I think you need Michael Myers, but let's create something new for Michael Myers to exist within. That's just me. Maybe you guys disagree, but that's just me.
Yeah, no. What about all the new news about the franchise and everyone? There's a lot of rumors going
Malika
around right
Cod,
now.
he did make a couple of cryptic announcements during his panel. I know that the Slaughtered Lamb podcast, we were not at this panel. I just want to say ahead of time, but the Slaughtered Lamb podcast mentioned, I think on their Instagram page, that Malika Cod stated that there was a grain of truth in a lot of the news stories that were flying around social media over the last week or so about this bidding war going on for the future of the Halloween franchise, and that possibly an idea or an outcome was going to be announced before Halloween, in that the franchise was going to be kept in a, quote, elevated form. So that's very interesting to me.
I feel like I read a lot of rumors about a TV series set in the Halloween 3 world.
Spooky Halloween Gal just said, what about a TV series based on Michael Myers?
Well, yeah.
And on the plane right here, Joe actually just sort of spitballed this idea that was very interesting, sort of like a Loomis TV series that kind of tracks, maybe like 63 through 78.
But as you're watching Loomis deal with a young Michael,
and also Win,
you get these offshoot stories of possibly some other murderers that Loomis is dealing with that can take you on a better ride than a young,
because
Michael.
we know that Michael was institutionalized from 63 to 78, so it's tough to kind of wiggle with that. But we also know that Haddonfield definitely is like cursed earth, because you have the Charlie Bowles murders that took place before Michael Myers. So there is a history of evil within Haddonfield. Now, I know that wasn't in Haddonfield. Before you jump on me, I know Charlie Bowles was in Russellville, but you know what I'm saying, within the mythology of Haddonfield, the mythology of the Halloween universe.
What happened there? Yeah.
So I think that something could be done. Yeah. So I think tangentially a TV series with Michael Myers involved, I think could work. I think there's ways of doing it. Would I like to see that? I don't think I'd like to see a TV series of Halloween. That's just me. I think Halloween should stay on movie screens. That's just me. Maybe other people feel differently, and maybe something could be made that I'd see it and I'd say that's awesome. I love this TV series. As we all know, Brian Fuller, who made the Hannibal series, is apparently producing a Camp Crystal Lake prequel TV series or some form of TV series, or he's developing it. So I think there's fertile ground for that within the Halloween mythology. I just don't know if personally if it's something I would want to see.
It would. I feel like TV would water it, the ideas down a little too much. The way they have to draw things out.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? But
Bay Area Throwback said Halloween should definitely stay as movies. I 100%
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
In my heart, I just think that Halloween should stay on the silver screen.
yeah.
I think that's where it belongs. It's such a cinematic franchise. I think the last 3 movies have really proven that, and proven its ability to kind of reach new fans and still please older fans, en masse on in movie screens. So I think it should stay that way. Signature Sounds, what they say, Joe. Why don't you read
Yeah,
it?
I agree. I wish that they would get that footage back, the 78 reels.
Billy
And
Kirkus's
yeah,
well, Signature Sound says, I wish some bidding war would take place for Billy Kirkus's Halloween 78 reels. Why don't you
I
explain
don't.
that?
Yeah, I don't know if
Because I don't even know really what that is.
yeah, I'm not going to say I'm an expert on it at all, but I know that there's a private collector who I believe is this Billy guy, and he has a lot of the footage from the original movie. And I believe there's a lot of stuff that would be really interesting for the fans to see, whether it's showing you the alternate scenes. I think there are shots where you see Michael get up from the ground at the very end of the movie. Whether there's theories whether you're simply seeing
And so what is he
Nick
just
Castle getting up at the end of a take, or whether that was filmed to be him getting up. So you could make an amazing documentary. You could get that Star
what is he
Wars
just sit? Is
level.
he sitting on it?
Yeah, I think he's not, and it's got like I think he has he
Come
might be the
on.
guy with the Panaglide early tests, and it's all the other angles that
somebody holding something that's part of such an important piece of film history like that and sitting on it out of maybe some form of clout. I just think if that's the reason you would sit on something, that's cynical, that's sad. Billy Kirkus, if that's the reason you're sitting on that and you're listening to this, naughty,
Give it up.
naughty Billy
Give it up.
Kirkus. Let the fans see those reels. Who's it gonna hurt? The
There
fans
you go.
love Michael Myers.
He owns every hour. Yeah, exactly.
Signature Sound said, well, who said that?
It's the same.
Oh,
guy.
he
Yeah,
owns
so
every hour
yeah.
of production in real form of the original classic.
Unfortunately,
Wow.
I don't know the story
Wow.
on how he obtained them,
That's
whether they
unbelievable.
were legally or he had something to do with the movie or he's a collector. It's just a story I'm kind of peripherally aware of. But
I just want to say hello to, I'm assuming it's the October, the OCT. Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're really happy to have you here. The October said, I'd be happy with a Halloween movie, a Halloween TV show, a Halloween miniseries. Pretty much anything other than a musical is fine by me.
I think if it's done well,
that's love.
Any format would work if
you get the right creative people.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you get the writing.
It's clout. Bryce Loraski just said it's clout. It's clout. And that's we're in such a clout-driven society right now. It's just so pathetic.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, that's sad. Like, come on, man. People, the fan. Look, I'm a person who believes
by holding that. You know what I mean?
I'm a person because that becomes his identity.
Exactly.
His identity becomes I'm the guy that owns this stuff. It's mine. I own it. It's my special thing that makes me special. And people are talking about me in live stream, comment threads. Okay, listen. That's if that's the case, and maybe I'm wrong, and he's crying right now because I've judged him wrongly, but that's probably what it is. Let's be honest. But look. I what was I going to say? What was I saying?
I don't know.
And neither do I.
But hey, listen, I'm curious if you guys are enjoying the live episode. This is new for us.
Yeah, we've never done this before. Maybe for good reason.
Stuff. I know now. This is maybe the last one.
No, I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun. I feel like I'm just sitting here hanging out with you guys. And that's and you know what? That leads me back to what we started with. The major thing I got out of this weekend personally, that's the biggest positive, is whether it was people from the movies that are actors, filmmakers, or just other fans of the movies that all came to the convention. That's what was the best part of this weekend, was hanging out with the Halloween family, the Halloween franchise family, and feeling like just two people that were at the family reunion, seeing all these other people we love and making all these new friends. And it just warmed my little black heart.
It was really cool to be able to walk up to strangers and be able to talk to them about Halloween, not on a basic level like you talk to, just your average friends that are just not huge Halloween fans. You can mention these obscure actors or directors or people who worked on the movies, and this guy you've never met before from halfway across the country knows exactly what you're talking about and who you're talking about and why it's important that you're talking about them, or that when you just see a star and you're starstruck, and it's
And
just
yet, and
some
to have
background guy or something, and there's some other guy right next to you who's doing the same thing,
and then
you
to
get
have
it,
those same people deflate that immediately and just treat you like they're so happy to see you too.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that kind of blew my head off.
yeah.
And then to look at I'm one of those people that feels other people's. I can tell if somebody's being cynical with me, and I just think I got a pretty good gauge for that. And it was very genuine. Like
Yeah.
you're sitting there talking to Danielle Harris or talking to Chris Nelson, and I was like, oh my God, he is genuinely warm, like a genuinely warm and friendly person. Like it's amazing.
Now, the only guy that looked like a grump, I'll admit, I didn't talk to him, but he didn't look very approachable, was Anthony Michael Hall.
He looked a little grumpy. Let's be honest. He looked a little grumpy.
Now, I also, every time I looked over, there was nobody in line
And
for
yet,
him.
when I was standing
but-
2 feet away from him, all I kept thinking is, "Oh my freaking God, that's Rusty Griswold!" Like, holy God, that's Rusty Griswold
Yeah.
sitting there.
Yeah.
And like my brain again was like leaking out of my left ear, and then out of my right ear, my brain started leaking because I'm like, "Oh my God, Weird Science!"
Yeah, well, that's what I would love to go up.
You guys know the shower scene in Weird Science where they're like nose to nose in the shower. Well, we all grew up on Weird Science. If you're my age, you grew up on Weird Science, and to see Anthony Michael Hall standing there was like, it was tripping me out.
I know.
And I love him in Halloween Kills. Some people were critical of him in that. I
wasn't
loved
a fan.
him.
I wasn't a
When
fan.
he puts the bat across his shoulders like this in that one iconic shot, it still gives me a little chill. I think he was a great Tommy Doyle, and I think he carried that legacy very, 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 very soundly.
I just couldn't help but see all those wimpy teenage characters he played in his early movies. So
The October said, "I thought each of your voices belonged to the other's face until this live stream."
That's the best.
You thought I had Joe's voice? Oh my God, I'm not going to sleep at night now.
That's great.
You just turned me into a nervous Nelly. And what else? Spooky Halloween Gal. This has been fun. Everyone chatting together and putting faces to the voices we've been hearing for the last year. I feel like Spooky Halloween Gal somehow subliminally telling us to wrap it up. She's like, "This has been fun." Wrap it up.
Yeah, I think. Well, we have kind of covered the con. It was fun. Don't take any of the negatives we threw out there too personally or harshly or that we're dissing it.
No, we're just trying to be real.
I always try to give both sides of everything I'm talking about, and I spend a lot of times at conventions in general in my life, so I'm always sort of comparing. But at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun. I mean, we're still kind of hyped up from it. I met everybody I could possibly want to meet from the Halloween movies that was there. So,
and I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, but I put my arm around Danielle Harris. I loved it. What a sweet lady. Very warm and friendly. She treated me with love and care, and I was very happy to have it.
I think you guys,
it blew my mind. Danielle Harris. I'm not afraid to say it at least 7 or 8 more times. No, seriously, this has been this actually probably has been the highlight of my week. And being here, hanging out with you guys on the live stream, meeting all you guys at the con. A lot of you guys were nice enough to come up to us and say hello. And I just loved it.
Yeah. So
whatever we said as negatives is just to be constructively critical. That's all.
Yeah. All the big
overall,
stuff was
we
good.
loved it. We, Sean Clark, we loved it. And Trankus, we loved it.
I was saying in the beginning, I don't think any con is ever gonna. I've never been to a con that's perfect.
No.
It's a hard thing to manage a lot of people in a small space. I understand that, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, but you know what? Overall, the love was there. The vibe was just so nice and so great.
As a fan, I felt very comfortable there and entertained.
I'm just very proud to be this tiny little part of the world of Halloween franchise fandom. that our little tiny YouTube series and our little Instagram page and all that stuff that we do just out of because we love it so much. And it's literally the thing that makes me the most proud in my life. It's really the thing, like we were talking about that guy with the clout sitting on the reels.
The
Like,
footage,
well,
yeah.
this is what for me, what I hold as like my identity. And doing this little Haddonfield radio and being a fan, a horror fan, that's what I feel
Well,
defined by.
you know what? And that guy with the reels is kind of a good example, like in terms of being a fan. Like the part I like about being a fan of any of the things I love is being able to share it with the people. It's why I build the droids for the Star Wars stuff. It's why we do the show with this. And then you get the guys like that, because in all my other fandoms that I'm a part of, those guys exist in everything.
Yeah.
These guys who are only known because they are holding on to something that they know everybody else would like to enjoy, and they won't let us because maybe it's money or something else. So this is the part of the fandom that I love, and it's being able to share everything with you guys. And that you guys seem to enjoy listening to us talk about the movies the way we talk about it. We kind of just have.
We've always done the Haddonfield radio series from the very first episode, just trying to make it the notion of what it is just
hanging out
with other
yeah.
people, watching these movies together with your friends. And that's what we try to make it sound like. And because that's really what it is. We just being ourselves. And when we're recording it down in Joe's basement, recording those episodes, we're always picturing you guys like just in the room with us, just being with our friends and our big group of friends out there that enjoy these films together. And that's all we do. And that's why we do it. And just to reach out to you guys and just to watch movies with you guys. And so doing this fun live stream has been a total blast because we're literally just sitting here hanging out with you guys and chatting. And it's a lot of fun. And to every single one of you guys that took the time out of your busy lives to hang out with us the last hour and 20 minutes, I really, really mean it from right here. I love you guys, and I'm not being cynical or joking, or I literally love you guys.
Not as much as Danielle Harris.
I literally Danielle Harris. I really do love you guys, and I do love Danielle Harris and Chris Nelson and all the rest of them. But you guys in particular, I consider you guys my friends, and I love watching movies together with you. And we really do hope you guys are going to come watch the Nightmare on Elm Street movies starting in November.
Yeah. The last thing I'm going to say is sort of this is what we got coming up. We have new episodes of Trailer Park that are going to be recorded very soon. We have a Halloween special that will be out by the end of the month around Halloween. And starting next month in November, we will start season 2 covering the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
And within probably a week, we're going to be doing episode 4 of our Haddonfield Radio Trailer Park.
Yep.
And we might as well just throw it out there. We're going to be doing one vintage trailer and one modern trailer for that episode. And we're going to be doing 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street and 2010's Nightmare on Elm Street Platinum Dunes reboot.
Yeah.
So we're going to be comparing and contrasting those trailers.
Whet the appetite for
just sort of to get the ball rolling for Nightmare on Elm Street. So that'll be probably in a week.
Yeah.
But to every single people, and Bryce, by the way, Bryce said, "Thanks, you guys. I feel like you are my best of friends. Love it." You don't have to feel like we're your best friends. We are your best of friends. We love you, man. And I meant it when I said it. And I even said it to Joe after. I hope that you understood when I said it really made our weekend to meet you, that it literally made my weekend to meet you.
It did.
Thank you so much. When you came up and said hello, like I almost had tears in my eyes. That made me so happy just to know there's other fans out there that enjoy these movies, that like watching these movies with us. That like means the world to us. So, and really, so honestly, like we really do sincerely appreciate you guys and love you guys, and have enjoyed every minute of this and enjoyed all year sharing these videos and our creativity with you guys. And thank you for all your knowledgeable comments and all your talents and friendliness and kindness. It's meant so much to us. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's really meaningful that you guys are there and a part of this little community with us. So thank you. Yeah. We love you.
Thank you guys.
Danielle Harris, call me. Call me.
I think we're done, guys. We're gonna wrap it up right now. We'll see you soon.
We love you guys. We'll see you in a week with the next episode of Trailer Park. We love you. See you in November. Freddy's coming. Springwood's coming.